Welcome to Unit 5 of the SAP HANA Introduction course. I'm Michael Neerborg, your presenter. Unit 5 is going to deal with reporting. So when we say reporting in HANA, we mean the end client, the business user, producing meaningful reports. So reporting is what comes after having provided data into HANA and then created information models. Only at that stage can we do some useful reporting on HANA. So what we're going to see in this unit is that we're first going to look at some of the database connectivity options, as in the communication protocols that we can use to query HANA. We're going to see the different client tools that we can use. It's going to be Excel, and it's also going to be a wide range of different business objects clients that we have to our availability. So the objective of this unit is to give you an idea on the connectivity options that we have available, as in the communication protocols. You will also get an understanding of the business objects platform and the client tools that we have. And then you will be able to choose the correct client tool for the correct report. Let's look at a diagram of how the client interface with HANA. At the top of HANA, on the right-hand side, at the top, there's a yellow box there with the actual clients themselves. We have Excel, we have dashboard design, we have web intelligence connecting through universes, we have Explorer, we have analysis. So these are all different types of client tools that we can use to communicate with HANA. You also see highlighted on the left-hand side some more yellow boxes. Now these are strictly not end user or business client tools as such. Information design tool and the server itself. We want to log in there as a client in order to be able to administrate the business objects platform. So we can call them clients, but they're not end user clients as such. So these clients, we said we'd look at the communication protocols. So what do we have available here? ODBO is only DB for OLAP. This is a Microsoft-driven specification for multidimensional reporting. And on ODBO, the requests are sent to the database via MDX. We have a very heavily adopted industry protocol called ODBC, Open Database Connectivity, which is primarily a Microsoft-driven specification for reporting. But it's not only Microsoft-centric as such, because we do have Unix and Linux drivers for ODBC as well. But in the Unix world, it might be more common to report using JDBC, which is a Java database connectivity. A more SAP-specific type of interface is BIX. It's actually an SAP proprietary interface, primarily used for OLAP access. So here queries are also sent via MDX. We also have the SQL DBC interface that we can also query HANA with. Here we can see another diagram of how the requests are sent from the client to HANA and how the end user will then see a report based on models that are created in the HANA Studio. So, having gained a bit of an understanding of the communication protocols, let's go into some of these clients. If we start with Microsoft Excel, probably the most basic way of creating a HANA report could be done with Excel itself. You can actually create multi-dimensional reports, and it's good in the sense that it gives us an opportunity to do quick and dirty reports that can still be in a cross-term style. It could be good for a developer to perhaps do some investigations on the models that are created. It could be useful for some very simple reports, although it does have some disadvantages. Which is, for example, that the report definition is really only available locally we can't publish it and share it with other people. There are also some performance limitations. So it's not the absolute fastest way. So want to show off the HANA speed, we probably wouldn't use Excel via RDBO. But if you are to create a connection in Excel, you would go to the wizard that is found if you go to Other and Advanced option of the Data Connection wizard. Here you can then choose the SAP HANA driver, and then you would connect to the corresponding system that you want to report on. And then you can create a standard Microsoft pivot table. You could use other Excel functionalities that you may be used to if you're an Excel user. So as I said, this might not be an enterprise reporting tool, but it can still be quite useful, especially when you are setting up your information models or if you're at an early stage of adopting HANA. So we call the Excel interface a little bit quick and dirty. But for enterprise reporting, you then probably want to look at business objects. So what's included in business objects then? We said we have quite a few clients as in client reporting tool. How do we know what's suitable for what type of report or for what usage? This slide that we see in front of us gives us quite an easy way to describe the different client tools and see what product could answer different business questions. So for you to choose a client, it could be quite good to start with a question as such. If your question is, how do I access and transform corporate data into highly formatted reports for greater insight? Then you have the product custom reports, which is answering that question for you. Do you want to visualize data for better decision making? Dashboard design provides you with dashboards. How do I answer ad hoc questions and interact with this information? Then you have web intelligence, sometimes called Webby. Probably the most standard reporting tool in the business object suite. Other question is, how do I determine trends from complex historical data and possibly make better forecasts? Then we have the analysis. Analysis comes both in addition for Office and addition for OLAP. If your question is, how do I find immediate answers to business questions? If you don't want a predefined report, you have an immediate question that needs answering, and you don't have something predefined to give you that answer, then you have Explorer. And if your question is, how can IT create centrally simplex to complex BI applications for a larger audience, we have analysis addition for application design. So if we start there with the tool that we see on the left-hand side, Crystal Reports. What is Crystal Reports then? Well, it can give us some very pixel-perfect reports. And what we mean with that is that it's reports that are very, very stylish, but probably less interactive. If you think of, for example, end-of-year results, statements, PDF presentations, these would probably be suitable to be created with Crystal Reports. And with the Business Object version 4, we can use Crystal Reports with the ribbon bar look and feel, and it can still access any data using the common query design with the query panel that we're later going to see how that works. So we can access HANA data through this method. We have dashboard design, which is used to create dashboards. So these dashboards, they can also be very stylish or fine-tuned, but additionally to just being stylish, these can also be interactive. You can do what-if analysis using different sliders. You can drill down into detail. Dashboard design, it's got a lot of pre-built components for you as a developer to make use of So some of these include skins, could be maps, charts, gauges, and selectors. On the right-hand side here, you see an example of how a dashboard could look like. So these dashboards, they could be published a portal, could also be included in a PDF or even Office documents. But for more ad hoc query and reporting, then we have Web Intelligence. So Web Intelligence can actually provide you with a very powerful interactive experience. It is a web-based interface. You can start with a blank slate, as in you decide for yourself completely how the report should look like. You could also start with an existing report. Maybe someone has started on, and you create modifications to it or additions. It does give you the option of multi-source access. In the sense of looking at HANA, it could mean that we could combine HANA data with other data. We can do filtering, ranking, sorting, all sorts of calculations. And then we have Analysis Office Edition. The Analysis Office Edition is kind of combining Office and Business Objects, a bit of a middle ground between Excel and BO. So when a predefined set report is no good because you're not quite sure what kind of questions, what kind of information you are looking for, then Explorer is probably the client that you want to look at. So let's see what Explorer can do for us. Well, it gives us fast response using big amounts of data, and it works very well with HANA as well because of this. So on the right-hand side here, you see an example of how Explorer could look like. You can drill down, you can combine different dimensions and measure it quite easily. You can change how it should be displayed. If you want to see it in a pie chart, if you want to see it as a column chart, with an instant click of a button, you can change it. The Business Office version 4 has a Launchpad interface. So the Launchpad is seen as kind of a home page for Business Objects. So this lets users choose the reports they want to see when they land on this home page. With the Launchpad, you can have multiple reports and documents open at the same time. You might modify one while you look at the other one for reference. You can also search, very good search capabilities, so you can find the correct report if you have a massive implementation with a lot of reports. BI Launchpad, it provides us with BI workspaces. If you look here on the bottom right-hand side, you can see how the BI Launchpad could look like if you have BI workspaces implemented. Here, you see a combination of a dashboard, you see different types of reports displayed to a user in a multi-report type of fashion. It's part of the homepage interface, you could say. Okay, so let's see a little bit about these clients in detail that fall under the Business Objects umbrella. We start by looking at the analysis for Office. We said that analysis for Office is something that kind of sits in between Office and BO. With the analysis for Office, you can report on multiple views, even from different HANA systems in one workbook or sheet. And it's not just Office-based, because you can save a workbook and you can open it from a Business Objects platform, as in the server itself. So what can you do with it? Well, you can actually do quite powerful reporting. You can define style sheets, swap axes, analyze data, filter, sort. You can even do charts. Type of filtering is supported. You can have presentations created with analysis for Office as well. So we said we can report on HANA. Well, it's possible then to report on both analytic and calculation views. You can do so via the BO platform, or you could do it via locally defined ODBT connection as well. So in this slide here, we see it in use. We see a table based on an analytical view in HANA. One attribute and 3 measures have been chosen here. So that's Analysis Office Edition. Let's look then in Analysis for OLAP. So now we've kind of left Office behind. We have an OLAP-based analysis tool even more tightly integrated with the business objects, and that is Analysis Edition for OLAP. This is also a web-based application. It gives you the possibility to create multiple queries of different connections from different data providers. Again, you can report on analytic views and calculation views. What you see on the right-hand side of this slide here is the OLAP connection, which is then defined in business objects. So this OLAP connection will then provide you the basis for interfacing with the Analysis Edition for OLAP. So once you've created your connection, you can go into the BI Launchpad. You could launch Analysis Edition for OLAP, and then you can access HANA data of this connection that you have created inside Central Management Console or even the Information Design tool. So how does it look like? Well, here we see in this slide an example of the Analysis Edition for OLAP in use. We are created a report here trying to highlight that Canada is not doing too well in sales. So we see the different gross revenue and net revenue in some country or geographical dimensions here. So we've mentioned Explorer, which is the client we might want to use if we don't really know what data we're looking for. There is no preset report available to us, and we'd want to look at Explorer. So it provides us with quite a fast search and exploration type of interface. We see here in the right-hand side, you can even search for the type of the query that you want to create on the fly. As it says, it answers on the fly and investigative questions. So we can access any data source for this, and of course it includes HANA. So what we mean by exploration or exploring is that you don't need to have any data knowledge, any knowledge about the data model that sits behind it. And the reason is that we have the most relevant information always displayed first when exploring our data. We even get Explorer to select the best chart type for the data that we have selected. So you drill down to it, and you could find patterns that you may not have spotted on predefined reports. You can then export these to CSV or an image, save it locally, or as you see here, there's a one-click to send a link to the result by email. But again, it's not really for set reports. So if you come up with something that you see in your data here, it might be the next step to create a report then that highlights something that you want to report in a timely fashion with another tool. And to set up an existing Explorer to be configured with HANA, you would go into the Central Management Console of Business Objects, and then you would enable Explorer to use the JDBC connection to the HANA system that you would then have defined previously in the Information Design tool. So here we see in Explorer itself, under the connection that we have defined, we can then see the different views that we could start reporting on, or as we call it, exploring. And this is us exploring We're now connected to HANA, and we see a combination of both graphs and a table here. So what about the remaining client tools in the lineup? Well, these are actually probably the most core business object tools, especially web intelligence. So that's what we have left in this unit. Let's see what these client tools can take advantage of. Well, we have the business object semantical layer, or universe, or business layer, as it may sometimes be called. So if you try to find a computer chip at the bottom of this slide, you will see that HANA is also one of the data sources that could be used together with a semantical layer. So what is a semantical layer then? Well, it gives the end of business users a task to access data using business terms. It provides them a single user experience over all the data, and it gives them also trust and consistency, because the data is always the same data with the same business terms across the organization. So these semantical layers that you create, they could be consumed by all the business object client tools that we have available, and it could allow IT to keep control and ensure security of information. So when we say that we have a common semantical layer, it could be said that it provides an abstraction layer for these data sources. So if we give an example there, if you've got an ID in the database, you might have a business term that corresponds to that ID then to give the user more of a meaning. In, for example, a database table, a column name might not be understandable. It doesn't have any kind of meaning to a business user. So that's what the semantical layer brings to us. Similarly, it could sit on top of a analytical or calculation view that you have created in HANA. So how does BI4, as in Business Objects version 4, connect using these semantical layers to HANA then? We have a new universe format that is introduced in Business Objects version 4. It's called UNX, and we can then access HANA via JDBC or ODBC relational connections. It gives us full access to tables, also the views, and that includes the analytic and calculation views. So what's quite important to remember is that these universes that you create, they don't store any data. It's just like a layer in between HANA and business objects for the end users to access the data through. And we can use it together with web intelligence, as we mentioned. We're going to see web intelligence a little bit more in detail later. You can also access it with dashboards or crystal reports for enterprise. Even Explorer can directly connect to the HANA views. So Explorer in fact might not need a universe in between. It's actually not recommended as such, but you can do it. So to create a semantical layer for a universe, let's look at the process. We create a new project. This is an information design tool. We start with a connection, data foundation. Remember data foundation from the modeling unit. We'll then go ahead and create a business layer. Once that business layer is published to BI4, we then have what's called a universe. The information design tool is a SAP client that's installed on a developer's machine, local installation. You start then with a local project or a collaborative project when you want to design a universe, depending on if you are the sole universe designer or if you work with other people. So we said the first thing you start with is to create a connection. Then if you want to access HANA, you would have to provide server name, port number, and how you authenticate. You got a username and password that you use directly, perhaps. You decide whether you want to use JDBC or ODBC. Additionally, if ODBC is selected, you would want to have that connection not only on your client machine used for development, but it would also have to be on the BO server itself. We define things like a username and password. If we are not using single sign-on to the database, you can test the connection and see that it's working appropriately. You might want to tune the connection itself a little bit. We say here that it's recommended to select disconnect after each transaction, meaning that we don't keep active sections that we don't use when reporting. We can set this array fetch size to maybe 1,000. This is a little bit depending on your network capabilities. So after we created the connection, we then start with the data foundation, which is what holds the tables and the relationships between them. So when we say tables in this data foundation, we can also include HANA views, analytical calculation views, etc. So in this data foundation, we would map the tables and views that the universe will be based on. We define the joins and create the objects themselves. It's a little bit similar to the kind of modeling that we do in HANA. So if you've got good modeling already done in HANA, the work that you need to do here might not need to be very much. We would select single source if HANA is the unique data source that we need, or multi-source if we want to combine data with other sources. We say the best choice is single source if multi-source is not strictly required. So with the universe that we have, we can then report on HANA, as we've said, and this would be done with SQL access. So we can report both from tables and views, but also from column views from the _sys_BIC schema. Remember what that schema contains? Contains our analytical views and calculation views. So having defined the data foundation, we can then move on to the business layer. So in the business layer, here we create the actual semantical layer, so to speak, because here is where we define the dimension and meshes that the end user is going to use together with other things that we enrich it with, such as hierarchies or prompts or security if the user should not see everything. So the business users, they don't actually need to see the data foundation. They are just going to see the business layer, which is what's done for them. Maybe by you, if you're the developer. So when you've defined dimensions, meshes, and aggregate functions, then you might want to create some test queries on your universe to see that it gives you the data that you expect. What good is a business layer if it doesn't give correct data that's expected? Let's say you're not happy with it. You can go ahead and publish the connection to the repository and then the business layer itself. After this, you can start using your client tools, Web Intelligence, dashboards, Crystal reports for enterprise, and create some useful reports. Here we see Crystal reports in action, and it's using a universe. We can see that by looking at the query panel at the bottom of this screenshot. Notice the look of the query panel. That's the key of this slide here. We've selected a couple of objects. There's 1 dimension and 2 meshes there. Because if we now go into look at dashboard design, we can see that it's using the very same query panel as Crystal Reports for Enterprise was using This is what we mean by a common interface for our designers and end users and business users. So lastly, we can see web intelligence again using the same query panel, same look and feel across all the client tools when accessing these business layers. So hopefully this unit will have provided you with an understanding of the connectivity options, as in the communication protocols. You will have an understanding of the BI4 platform and the possibilities. I don't know every single detail over the client tools, but at least you might have the understanding of choosing the correct client tool for the correct type of question that you have, answering the right question. Remember that slide. Let's now go into a demo of showing some of these reporting possibilities that we have. We can now look at some of these client tools connecting to HANA. Okay, let's start the demo of the reporting unit. What we're first going to look at is the Excel. Remember we called Excel in this context the quick and dirty way of reporting of HANA. So I'm going to go ahead and start Excel. What I'm going to do is to connect via the data tab of the ribbon. I'm going to choose to connect from other sources, and I'm going to choose from the data connection wizard. And here, I'm not going to choose SQL Server or DBC or LDB. I'm going to choose Other Advanced. So here I have quite a number of connection types. The one I'm interested in is the HANA MDX provider. I'm going to choose this one and connect to my server, WVS, LBMT. This will be the address to your server, of course. I'm going to log on as student 16. Okay, so the connection is testing successfully. Should then be able to log on. So this gives me an option to choose where I want to report off. I'm going to choose to report off this plan and actual comparison to COPA. I can give it a file name. I'm going to call it COPA. Comparison. Okay, I'm going to finish there with the connection itself. So yeah, giving the option to choose how I want to view my data. I'm going to say I want to view it as a pivot table. To provide my password here. So now I'm given an interface here where I see the pivot table on the left-hand side and a list of the fields that can be included on the right-hand side. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to look at the gross revenue. I'm going to see the net revenue as well. So you see now on the left-hand side how this pivot table is changing according to the fields that I select. So in order to make a little bit more sense of this, I'm going to choose to see the country as well. I'm going to choose the land one description, which gives me the description of the country. Maybe I want to see the region as well. I'll choose description of the region. So here in the pivot table, it's now giving me a total for the country and then a breakdown of the regions. I could go ahead and filter here. Maybe I want to see Norway. See Great Britain. So if you're familiar with Excel, you probably know how to work your way around the pivot tables. We are now seeing how to access HANA data with Excel itself. Let's exit Excel for now. And we are going to look at another client tool. We're going to start programs, business objects, and look at analysis for Microsoft Excel. Remember we said it's kind of a client who sits somewhere in between Office and Business Objects. Okay, here what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go into a different tab of the ribbon called Analysis. And I'm going to choose Insert. I'm going to select the data source here. Not going to, in this instance, log on to the Business Objects platform, although I can do that. But I'm going to skip that step. I'm going to choose a data source which is local on my system. I've got a local connection to HANA on this client. If I choose that, it's asking me to log in. I'm going to choose under Student 16. Remember, we created this union calculation view earlier in another unit of this course. So what should I look at here then? Well, I want to see the gross revenue. I'm going to remove production variance. I'm going to remove sales deduction. See that the interface is quite similar to what we saw in the standalone Excel pivot table type of reporting that we did previously. The gross revenue, I'm going to choose to see that per customer. I'm going to choose, otherwise, say customer here. Maybe I will filter this. I will insert a filter. You see here now, I do it slightly differently. Up in the ribbon tab itself, I'll choose to filter. I'll deselect these ones. I will choose just to see Matthias. I'll choose Becky Berlin and Becky Kahl. Right, maybe I want a chart of this. So what I will do is that I will go and select the chart in the ribbon, the graphical representation of these numbers. These type of number comparison might be suitable for a, should we say, a pie chart. I'll change the chart type to a pie chart. Some of these selections of how I want it to look like. I'll choose this one. Yeah, I can see a comparison on how my revenue is distributed of these customers. So that is a little bit about using another client here. So we've seen the analysis for Microsoft Excel. You see you access it from this installation folder. It's under Business Objects, Analysis for Microsoft Excel. What we previously saw was the standalone Excel, which just goes under the Microsoft Office folder, depending on your installation. What we're now going to see is that we're going to log on to the BI Launchpad. I'm going to start Internet Explorer. I've got the URL already here. This might be a link on your intranet or a link that's given to your users. I'm going to log on to the BI Launchpad with my username and password. So what I'm going to look at now is Web Intelligence. I'm going to start Web Intelligence, and I can do it either from up here in the Applications menu, or I could do it from down here. In My Applications, I choose the Web Intelligence application here. You see another tab is open in my BI Launchpad, and Webby is started. And let me create a new Web Intelligence report here. So what options do we have now? We are now going to look at the semantical layer that's pre-created for us in this instance. We are going to look at a universe. We have a HANA demo business layer that we can use as our universe here. What should we look at now? We will take a look at the dimensions that we have available. We choose to look at the material description. Let's create a report which can analyze part of our product. Material description, we choose the gross revenue. We will filter the material description to see a subset. I'll drag the material description into the query filters. I will say that I only want to see material descriptions that are defined off a prompt. The prompt should say enter values for material description. Let's run that report. When I hit run query, the semantical layer is then accessing HANA, which provides us with the results. But before we see the results in the report, remember I created a prompt to filter the query. I want to create a chocolate report. I'm going to just look at the chocolate products that we have. But I'm not entirely sure what they're called here. So I'm going to search for them first before I select it. I'm going to search for chocolate. Yeah, I've got 3 types of chocolate products that we sell. So I'm going to choose these 3, see how the revenue generated from these. So what's now happening is that we automatically get a table with the objects that we've selected in the query panel in our Web Intelligence report. So I'm going to say this is the chocolate report. I'm going to change this into a column chart. I'll right-click on the table itself and then go into turning it into a column chart. Maybe I want one tab with the chart itself. What I'll do is I'll duplicate this report and right-click on it. I will turn this into a table. So this was a chocolate report. Maybe what I can do is I can make this suitable for the type of data we have. What I'll do, I'll format these charts and say that I want them to be chocolate products. So there's lots of different types of further analysis that you can do in Web Intelligence. You see you've got all these types of possibilities of analysis tabs here, filters, data tracking. You can interact with drilling down, creating a filter bar. You can have these input controls here, which can enable you to do more interaction for the end user, almost in a dashboard-like fashion. So you've now seen some ways of interacting with HANA, creating reports, and this ends this unit, and it actually ends the whole SAP HANA introduction course. So thank you very much for listening, and I am Michael Mierborg, and I would like to say thanks to you as the participant.